There is a specific kind of pain that only arrives in the dead of night, when the world is silent and you're left alone with the one person you can't escape. It's the ghost of your own potential, the haunting echo of the person you swore you would be, standing in stark contrast to the person you see in the mirror each day. I know this ghost intimately. I spent years in a small, cluttered stockroom, not just broke in my wallet, but bankrupt in my spirit. I was a factory of empty declarations. This is when I changed everything. But what I discovered next was the silent killer. The would turn, and my resolve would dissolve. The passion of January became a distant whisper by spring. The future version of myself I'd envisioned remained exactly that, a character in a story I never got around to writing. And here is the most dangerous part of this entire cycle. When you let someone else down, they hold you to account. There are consequences, but when you break a promise to yourself, the only judge is you, and we are all far too lenient on ourselves. We become attorneys for our own mediocrity, crafting brilliant, reasonable-sounding excuses for our own stagnation. And we believe every single word. Every broken promise to yourself is a vote for a smaller life. This is the truth that finally shook me awake. Each day you postpone the difficult task. Each time you trade discipline for a cheap distraction. You aren't merely wasting hours. You are actively constructing a different person than the one you intended to create. If you are not diligently building your promised self, you are accidentally assembling someone else. Someone who compromises, who settles, who lives in the shadow of almost. And the way this happens is so subtle, you won't even feel it. It is never one cataclysmic failure. It is a quiet, consistent erosion. It's the 5 pages you didn't read, the 30-minute walk you skipped, the honest feedback you withheld, the side project you delayed for another someday. Individually, they feel like nothing. Collectively, they compound with devastating interest. While you stand still, time marches forward, and the chasm between your reality and your capability widens into a canyon. Each self-betrayal makes the next one easier, until you have forged an identity of someone who doesn't keep their word, especially to themselves. I remember the moment this crystallized for me. I was on my sofa, the blue glow of the television washing over me. I couldn't even tell you what was on, but a profound clarity cut through the noise. I saw, with painful precision, all the evenings I had sacrificed to that screen, all the free time I had squandered on nothing of consequence. And in that moment, I felt a deep, visceral disgust, not at my circumstances, but at my own complicity. Most people flee from that feeling. They numb it, distract it, drown it out. But I made a choice to sit with it, to let it burn. And I realized that disgust was not my enemy. It was an alarm bell. It was my own integrity, screaming to be let out of its cage. We misunderstand distractions entirely. We frame them as thieves of time. The real crime is that they are thieves of becoming. Every hour lost to mindless scrolling or passive entertainment is an hour you did not invest in your own evolution. You are donating your most precious resource, your focus, to someone else's mission, while your own destiny sits on the shelf, waiting. The most painful realization is this: the person you promised yourself you'd be is not a delusion. That vision came from a place of profound self-honesty. You glimpsed your true capacity. You felt the weight of your potential. That version of you was real, but you started treating it like a daydream, a nice, but ultimately impractical fantasy. Here is a difficult truth you must accept. That future self isn't waiting for you in some distant tomorrow. They are being built or dismantled right here in the present moment by the choices you are making as you listen to this. Every decision is a brick laid in your foundation or a sledgehammer taken to it. There is no middle ground. There is no waiting room for your potential. The person you become is the direct sum of your daily actions. If your behaviors do not align with your aspirations, your life never will either. It is brutally simple mathematics. You cannot spend your days distracted and expect to become focused. You cannot avoid challenging work and expect to build something meaningful. You cannot consistently break your own word and expect to possess integrity. The equation will never balance. But awareness, by itself, is useless. Guilt and shame change nothing. The only thing that creates change is a definitive decision, followed immediately by action. It is drawing a line in the sand of your life and declaring, the old version of me stays on that side. The new version begins its journey here, in this very second. Not on Monday, not on the first of the month, now. Because the distance between who you are and who you want to be can only be closed by starting. And that act of starting is what separates the dreamers from the architects of their own destiny. So the critical question is not about your past failures. We all have them. The only question that matters is this: what is your next move? After years of observing what separates those who rise from those who remain, I identified one core differentiator. It explains why modestly talented individuals often achieve far more than geniuses. It explains total life transformations versus perpetual stagnation. The difference lies in a state I call the lock. Let me illustrate with two people I met early in my journey. Both attended the same transformative workshop. Both were electrified by the same ideas. Both left swearing, "This is the beginning of everything." What happened in the following 5 years taught me everything. The first, let's call him Alex, was intrigued. He purchased the materials. He felt bursts of inspiration and would take action for a while. He'd wake early until he felt tired. He'd eat well until the weekend. He'd draft plans until a more appealing offer surfaced. And there was always a valid reason: family, fatigue, finances. Every excuse was legitimate, and every excuse was ultimately irrelevant. The second, David, was not intrigued, he was transformed. He entered what I call the lock. He decided, on a fundamental level, that nothing would derail him. Not his fluctuating moods, not the skepticism of others, not temporary setbacks. His decision was final, and it eliminated all other possibilities. David rose at 5 a.m., especially when he was exhausted. He consumed educational content during his commute. He dedicated his evenings to his craft. He did this when he felt motivated and when he felt nothing. He did it because he had given his word to himself, and that was the only reason he required. 5 years later, Alex was still intrigued. He was still discussing his plans one day. He was in the same job, the same routines, the same life, just 5 years older with more faded dreams. David had built a new world, a new career, new financial reality, new confidence. People called him lucky or gifted. They were wrong. He was locked in. Discipline is not a prison. It is the key. The lock isn't about robotic perfection. It's about ending the internal negotiation. The alarm sounds, you rise. Time for work, you work. You have pre-decided. You are not debating your feelings in the moment. You are following a protocol set by your highest self. This is how you conserve willpower. You aren't fighting a daily battle. You've already won the war by establishing the rules of engagement. Now, this path demands a price. It requires you to disappoint people, to decline invitations, to watch certain relationships fade because they no longer serve your trajectory. It requires you to stand alone, to be called obsessive, to be misunderstood, and they are right. You are obsessed. You are obsessed with honoring the most important promise you will ever make. Your life's path is defined more by your no's than your yeses. Everyone says yes to a better future. But who has the courage to say no to the distractions that block the path? Who says no to the comfort that breeds complacency? Who says no to the good and make room for the great? This is where it is. No to late-night television. No to energy-draining conversations. No to foods that clouded my mind. No to my own internal voice of compromise. And every single no was, in reality, a profound yes to the person I was determined to become. Commitment is not a one-time event. It is a daily ritual. You recommit each morning. You recommit with every choice. You recommit when you want to quit. It is a conscious decision made repeatedly, especially when it's difficult, especially when no one is watching. That is where true character is built. Many see discipline as confinement. They could not be more mistaken. Discipline is ultimate liberation. When you are locked in, you are free from the tyranny of endless choice, free from the shame of promises broken, free from the anxiety of an unlived potential. You are free because you know with certainty who you are, a person whose word is their bond, especially to themselves. The uncommitted person, chasing every whim, is not free. They are a prisoner of their impulses, a slave to their moods, living a life of quiet compromise in a very comfortable cell. True freedom is born from commitment. True freedom is the lock. If you desire a different outcome, you don't need another podcast or book. You likely already possess the necessary knowledge. You don't need a temporary surge of motivation. You need to transition from being a spectator to being a participant. You need to lock in. You need to cease negotiations with your weaker self and start honoring your stronger self. You need to make a decision that is non-negotiable. We are living in an invisible war for your mind. Your attention is the battlefield. If you are not actively defending it, you are losing the most valuable asset you own. Not just your time, but your capacity for deep focus, your ability to build your promised self. This is under assault every single moment. Distraction is no longer an option you seek out. It is a force that hunts you. It's in your pocket, on your wrist, a constant stream of demands. And most people fail to see the true cost. Every time you surrender your focus to something trivial, you are withdrawing it from something essential. You are choosing immediate gratification over lasting growth. When I audited my life, the results were horrifying. Over 30 hours each week vanished into a void of meaningless activity. A full-time job's worth of hours, wasted every single week. I was investing my life in things that had zero return for my future, so I became a guardian of my attention. I treated it as a finite, precious currency. I became ruthless about what earned access to my mind. I learned that distractions wear clever disguises. The obvious ones are easy to spot. Endless scrolling, trivial gossip, lethargy. But the dangerous ones masquerade as productivity. Constantly checking emails, rearranging your workspace, attending meetings that lead nowhere. These activities make you feel busy while you make zero progress. Sometimes, we use distraction as a painkiller. We are not just killing time. We are avoiding the vulnerability of real effort. We are dodging the discomfort of growth. We are scared of failing at something that matters, so we busy ourselves with things where failure is impossible because the stakes are zero. But the cost of this self-medication is your future. Every day you numb yourself is another day you delay your becoming. The gap widens. The self-betrayal deepens. This accumulates into weeks, years, and ultimately, a life of regret. The solution is not just willpower. It is environmental design. You must structure your world so that focus is the default and distraction is difficult. Leave your phone in another room. Unsubscribe from digital junk mail. Set clear boundaries with your time. Protect your morning ritual as if it were sacred ground. Understand the critical difference between rest and distraction. True rest, like reading, walking in nature, quality sleep recharges you. It refills your energy for the work ahead. Distraction, like mindless consumption, drains you. It leaves you feeling hollow and tired. You cannot construct a significant life with a fractured attention span. You cannot achieve mastery. You cannot solve hard problems. You cannot become exceptional. All of this demands sustained, deep focus, the very skill a distracted world is trying to steal from you. So, will you fight for your attention? Will you guard your focus as if your future depends on it? Because it absolutely does. Your dreams, your potential, your promised self, they all hinge on this daily battle. You do not build a legacy in one grand gesture. You do not become extraordinary from a single choice. You build it through the relentless repetition of small, seemingly insignificant disciplines. When people asked me the secret to my turnaround, they expected a dramatic story. The truth was profoundly simple. There was no secret. There was no single breakthrough. It was 1,000 tiny obediences to my own commitment. Waking up immediately, reading a few pages, choosing the healthy meal, making the difficult call, doing the work. None of it was impressive in isolation. But compounded daily, it built a new reality. You are always in motion. You are either building or decaying. There is no stationary position in life. Every choice pushes you closer to or further from your potential.